So, Jean-François, I guess we'll start off, might as well, by talking about the U.S. election, because there are implications here as far as Canada and Quebec are concerned. And they concern, of course, immigration. Donald Trump has promised that if elected, this whole idea of, kicking people out of America who don't belong there is going to be, I guess, if not job one of the top things he plans to do immediately when he gets into office. That brings up the whole idea of Roxham Road again, which is how this all started in the first place. There's a question that came up today, and I don't know if you've heard this, to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, asking about whether your policy back in, what year would that be, 2016, 2017, of putting up a fence at Roxham Road would be something they'd consider doing again. Listen to the answer.
Knowing how it was mismanaged by Justin Trudeau, knowing that François Legault's pretension that he would have influence, he would gain all powers on immigration, was a farce at best, I think we are dealing with serious issues here, because there will be migration. I don't know to what level, but we're talking about 20 million people here.
Yeah, well, potentially there could be, many people trying to get back into Canada, depending on what Trump actually does. And it won't be just about Roxham Road. That's what he's implying there, Jean-François. It's about, airports and everywhere else that we have to be concerned about. So this is a concern, do you think?
It should be. The normal rate of expulsion over the last three presidents, Obama, Trump, and Biden, is about 500,000 per year. Well, that's what they do when they don't work hard at it. So if they decide to work hard at it, it could be 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million a year. It's Stephen Miller, who's Mr. Trump's main advisor on immigration, has been working on a plan for the last 2 years to mobilize not only inspectors of the immigration department, but also using military bases to have camps of transition towards deportation. So it's clearly something that they've thought through. But what it does to the 11 or 13 million, we don't know the exact number, but the people who live in the U.S. irregularly, it means to each and every one of them that they are becoming insecure about their future. And a number of them will say, well, maybe we should not wait around to have ICE knocking on our door and just make other plans. And other plans could be Canada. That's the easiest other plan they can do. And Aaron, there's specifically 310,000 Haitian refugees on the U.S. soil now that have been protected by a specific immigration relief decree by the Biden administration, and Trump has vowed to rescind that decision. So that means that these 300,000 Haitians right now are looking at other options.
And if they're looking at other options, and I think we need to point out again, Trump doesn't become president, for another couple of months. It's not till January. But obviously these people know what his policy or his stated policy is. And I imagine we're going to start to see these people try to move now before they're forced to move. So you'd have to think Quebec is kind of back where we started again with respect to what we're going to do about people crossing our border.
Well, it's not only Quebec. I mean, all across the border, and the conundrum here is that let's take these Haitians. The reason why Biden has protected them is because he had determined that sending them back to Haiti would be insecure for them. So they have a legitimate ground to ask for asylum. Mm-hmm. And so if asylum is denied to them in the U.S., according to Canadian law and to international treaties, they have a legitimate ground to ask for asylum here. So what would the federal government have to do to say, well, you're no longer accepted even though you meet the criteria? Well, that's a very tough question.
So let me go back and deal with the election last night to begin with. Just overall, your impression, were you surprised by, I called it a resounding victory for Trump, by what you saw happen?
It is a resounding victory. And also, I didn't expect him to win the popular vote, which gives him tremendous legitimacy to implement his program. I was reconciled, have been for a couple of weeks, on the real possibility that he'd be reelected. I had some hope that there would be a surge of women voting for Harris, closing the gap. And I'm really stunned by the fact that the proportion of women having voted Trump has increased by 2 points since the last time. And that is stunning. I mean, what would he have had to do except ban abortion rights throughout the country, being misogynistic towards women, belittling women during the whole time? What more would he have had to do to get women riled up and voting for Harris? I wonder.
There is the one opinion that I've heard as to why that happened is that, individually states, right, had their own sort of elections, if you will, on whether they're going to enshrine abortion rights or not. And many of them, even Republican ones, that voted for it, maybe women thought perhaps, okay, we know that in our own state this is not going to be an issue, so therefore it's okay to go ahead and vote for Trump and not have to worry about this.
Well, they did split the ticket. In 10 states, they could vote to reestablish or expand abortion rights. And then they say, well, if this is done, I can vote for Trump. But they're still voting for the guy who made it so that rights of women went back. So it's still, even with this explanation, it's still stunning to me.
So let's move beyond that and talk about a little bit of what's going on. I'm going to have, coming up just after the 5:30 news, I will have Graham Carr from Concordia on. So this is, again, another CAC motion to go ahead and try to deal, and I guess in a sense it's kind of immigration a little bit, but the idea that they now want to restrict temporary foreign students, yet when universities here, not just English ones, across the board, legitimate universities, went to the government, went to Jean-François Roberge and said, look, we'd like to be exempted here, his answer was not a chance. And I don't understand this. Do you?
Well, you're making a distinction between legitimate universities and illegitimate.
Well, when I say illegitimate, I mean there are institutions that will take your money if you're a foreign student to come here, pretend you're going to get an education, but it becomes nothing more than a pathway to permanent immigration. We know they're doing that.
Of course, the totality of universities in Egypt banded together saying we'd like to be exempted from this bill that applies to us. Well, then there's no more bill. But listen, the issue is that 12 years ago, there were 50,000 foreign students in Quebec. Now there are 120,000, and it's growing. So the Quebec government has always had the ability to restrict the number if he thought it was going out of hand. He didn't, and now he wants to give himself more power. Now, the issue is, if you believe that the total number of temporary immigrants, including students, is so big that it drives the cost of housing so high that it has a real negative impact on society, if you believe that, then you should look at every lever to lower the number of temporary workers or immigrants, including students, and that's what they're doing. And so I think it's a legitimate proposal from the CAC. The worst possible thing that would happen is that we would go back to 2012 when there were 50,000 foreign students, and at that time, I remember very well that McGill and Concordia were in very good health.
You're trying to make the point that this is not an issue and that they're raising it as an issue? I'm not sure I understand.
I mean,
universities say this would hurt them, and you're saying, well, no, it's okay, it's not that important, not that big a deal?
Well, they have gone through incredible years of growth since 2012 in the number of students that they've brought in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go back to the 2012 number, which was 50,000, they will not die. They will shrink back to the 2012 period when they were doing fine. So I understand, as every enterprise wants the ability to bring in as many foreign workers as they wish. Every university and CEGEP wants the same. But if the sum total of the wants of every sector is that the housing market pushes people in poverty and to live in the streets, some of them, the end result, well, you say, listen, we have to have a better handle on this, and we're going to have to close some of these faucets, including the students.
Okay. I will leave it at that. I mean, I would say, why don't we just build more student housing specifically to house these students and just deal with the scofflaws who are pretending to give students an education, taking their money, and then just saying, we're not offering them an education. This is just a way into the country. It would seem to me that would be the best place to at least start before we just make blanket sort of declarations that we want all universities to cut their temporary foreign student enrollment. But that's just me.
That's just you.
Okay. Jean-François, merci.